My husband left me for my mom, and then crawled back when he found out she wasn't getting the inheritance. Hi. I'm currently in a total mess because of my insane mother and my equally stupid ex-fiancé, who teamed up to completely destroy my peace of mind just to satisfy their greed. I would love to talk to someone about this, but it's way too personal and way too humiliating to bring up with anyone from real life. And trust me, by the time you hear what I've been through, you'll understand exactly why I say that. I have practically no family, so there's no one I can really talk to. That's why I'm here, just to vent and maybe convince myself that I'm not some monster like they're trying to make me out to be. It all started just 2 weeks ago when, completely out of nowhere, my husband of 3 years told me he wanted to leave me because he had feelings for my mother. Let's call this idiot Kevin. Yes, you read that right. And no, this isn't a joke. Believe me, I was just as shocked as you are, but with a whole lot more disgust when he said it. He told me they'd been having an affair for 3 months. I had no clue, because I was busy with work and he acted completely normal. There were no red flags. For context, my mom is only 20 years older than me. I'm 27, she's 47. She had me when she was still in college, and my dad left her the same day she told him she was pregnant. But honestly, she just wanted a reason to drop out, so she decided to keep the baby and told my grandma, her mom, that she wanted to raise me as a single mother. My grandparents were wealthy enough to support her, even though they were against her dropping out. They tried to get her to return to college after I was born, but she refused. She tried all kinds of jobs until she eventually landed on interior styling. No, not an interior designer. She doesn't design anything. She just tells rich people where to put furniture and what kind of vase to use to make a room look fancy. Rich people fluff, basically. But she's good at it. She's not certified or anything, but since my grandfather was a well-known realtor, he sent clients her way. My mom is the most unreliable, impulsive person ever, and she's insanely lucky she was born into a wealthy family. Otherwise, she'd be homeless. I was basically raised by my grandparents because my mom never had time for me. And it wasn't work. She was always partying while I was growing up. As a kid, I seriously thought my grandparents were my real parents, and that my mom was just an older sister or something. That's how I grew up. By the time I was a teen, I'd stopped expecting anything from my mom. She was still the same reckless mess. My grandfather passed away when I was in 7th grade, and after that, it was just me and Grandma against the world, and sometimes my mom, who was usually the biggest problem. If you've ever had to explain to your own mother, while being a 15-year-old, why she shouldn't fly to Iceland with a guy she met on Tinder 2 days ago, then you know exactly what my teen years were like. She's a complete idiot and couldn't care less about how her behavior affects other people. She doesn't even care about her own family. My grandma always told me that once she was gone, I'd be alone because my mom would never be there for me. So I worked my ass off to build a life. Now I'm a COO at a company, and I earn twice as much as Kevin. He's head of sales at a small firm, but I never held that against him. Partly because I graduated from one of the top business schools in the state and got an internship, and later, a full-time job, at my company thanks to Grandma's connections. She taught me humility, unlike Kevin and my mom, who act like they're celebrities when they've done absolutely nothing. Kevin and I met at a mutual friend's birthday party about 5 years ago and hit it off right away. We had a lot in common. We dated for 2 years, and when he proposed, I didn't even hesitate. I said yes. He seemed like a good guy, at least, that's what I thought. He used to joke about how hot my mom was, which okay, maybe not totally wrong. I'd never call her hot, because she's nuts and also, she's my mom. But to be fair, for her age, she looks pretty good. She made a ton of money selling fake feng shui decor to rich people and blew it all on makeup and Botox. No wonder she still looks attractive. I don't want to discredit actual interior decorators or people who truly understand feng shui. Maybe it does work. But my mom's entire career is basically a scam because she doesn't know what she's doing. I respect people who are experts in their field. My mom is not one of them. And on top of that, she's a horrible person. So yeah, I feel fully justified in talking shit. I thought Kevin would be different from my exes. I thought I could trust him. But nope. He used to joke that my mom was so hot she could pass for my sister. I laughed at the time because who in their right mind would actually believe something that ridiculous could happen? The only reason I ever kept in contact with my mom was because of Grandma. She raised me into the person I am today, and I'll always be grateful to her, even if it meant putting up with her unhinged daughter. Grandma could never give up on my mom. She was kind and loved her despite everything. But no matter how hard I tried, my mom never loved me more than she loved herself. Even after Grandma passed away almost a year ago, I still tried to maintain some connection with her, more out of obligation than affection. Our relationship was awful, but I still took care of her, mostly because I felt it was my duty to Grandma. But that all ended 2 weeks ago, when Kevin told me about the affair. He sat me down when I got home from a business trip, looked me in the eye, and said he was in love with my mother and they wanted to be together. At first I thought he was joking and laughed, but for the first time ever, he didn't laugh back. Then he started describing in detail how they'd been sleeping together behind my back for 3 months. Apparently, he and I had had a fight over something dumb, and my mom texted him around that time asking how to fix her headphones. That's how they started talking, and it just developed from there. They didn't mean for it to go that far, but feelings happened, and they couldn't help it. I'm sure Kevin wasn't at all bothered by the fact that my mom and I look alike. I threw him out on the spot. He didn't even protest, because he knew he could just go shack up with my mother. I think I drank an entire bottle of wine that night, crying like I was cursed. I sat up all night, crying so hard my eyes were swollen shut by morning. Around 4:30 a.m., completely lost in rage and heartbreak, I decided to text my mother. I was drunk. Maybe that's why I did it. I told her everything I thought. That she was a shitty daughter to Grandma, a shitty mom to me, and only getting worse with age. I said she was a scam artist, and once the Botox and fillers were off, Kevin would see her for the wicked which she really is and leave her too. I didn't expect her to reply, but she did, and her message opened my damn eyes. She said, "Maybe I'll lose my looks one day, but I definitely won't lose the bank account that's about to grow tenfold thanks to Grandma's will." I had completely forgotten about the inheritance because I had been so focused on grieving Grandma's death. But her lawyer had said we'd only get the exact details of the will after the legal waiting period, around 6 to 9 months. And that time had pretty much passed, so we were due for some news soon. Grandma gave her lawyer very clear instructions not to reveal who would inherit what until the full legal waiting period was over. The only thing we knew for sure was where she wanted to be buried. That was it. So neither my mother nor I had any idea what exactly we'd get. But since Grandma had a lot of money, assets, and property, we were expecting a generous inheritance. Well, my mother was expecting it. Because when Grandma died, the only thing I truly cared about was the fact that she was gone, and I was now completely alone. I didn't care much about the contents of the will because I've never valued money more than relationships. But Kevin, it turns out, did. That's why he chose my mother over me. Both of them assumed that she would be getting the bigger slice of the inheritance. They were probably 100% sure of it, because my mother was boasting to me as if she already knew what she was getting, as if the lawyer had told her everything in advance. Anyway, I didn't reply to her message, and just tried to put the whole thing out of my mind. The very next day, I spoke to my own lawyer and said I wanted to file for divorce as soon as possible. 1 week after Kevin's confession, the papers were ready. All that was left was to wait for the divorce to finalize, so he could go spend the rest of his days with his ex-wife's mother. But then, something miraculous happened, and I am endlessly grateful to my grandma because even in death, she was still protecting me. I had already asked Grandma's lawyer, the executor of the will, to inform my mother and me separately because there was no way I could sit in the same room with her and Kevin. 5 days ago, the lawyer let me know that my mother had already been informed of her share, and now it was my turn. I came in with zero expectations and walked out feeling like the luckiest person on this entire damn planet. I inherited all of Grandma's money, assets, and properties. My mother got a diamond ring and a pair of matching earrings that Grandma used to wear when she was alive. That's it. That's all she received. Apparently, Grandma left everything to me because she had spent her entire life taking care of my mom. And now that my mom was nearly 50, she was old enough to finally start taking care of herself. So, ironically, the woman who always warned me that I'd be alone after her death actually made sure I'd be financially secure and never dependent on anyone. But the woman who spent her whole miserable life depending on Grandma's help, she got nothing. So in the end, my mother is the one who ended up all alone. That was karma at its finest, most brutal best. And I have never in my life felt such unfiltered joy. My mother found out just 1 hour before I did, but I had no idea what she would do next. I was actually curious, because even if she didn't reach out to me, I was 100% sure Kevin would. And of course, that's exactly what happened. He didn't even bother to wait a few days to save face. The very next day, he messaged me, saying he had made a huge mistake and wanted to come back if I would take him back. He said he and my mother were never really compatible, and that after spending just a few days with her, he realized how good he had it with me. He said he finally understood everything now and wanted to give our marriage a second chance. I literally laughed out loud when I read that pathetic attempt at reconciliation. They had no idea that I already knew my mother hadn't inherited anything, no big money, no property, nothing. I spent the whole day thinking about how I wanted to respond. In the end, I just sent him a clown emoji and blocked him. And I was 100% sure he hadn't told my mom about it either. So just to be absolutely sure, I took a screenshot of his message and sent it to her, but with 3 clown emojis. Then I turned off my phone because I wanted nothing to do with the circus that was bound to follow. Instead, I turned on Netflix and decided to enjoy a peaceful evening, not letting either of them ruin another second of my life. The next morning, I found out what happened, thanks to the daughter of my mom's next-door neighbor. For context, my mom still lives in the house I grew up in. My grandfather left that house to Grandma and my mom, so after Grandma passed, my mom stayed there. I'm friends with the neighbor's daughter. She told me everything. Around 10 p.m., she started hearing loud shouting coming from my mom's house. No one in her family went to check because everyone in the neighborhood knew my mom and nobody liked her. But then the yelling turned into full-blown screaming, and that's when they finally stepped outside. My completely unhinged mother had literally thrown Kevin out of the house, and he was lying on the sidewalk while she was hurling whatever she could get her hands on at him, screaming the most vile, disgusting things. Kevin started screaming back because she grabbed a heavy hardcover book and chucked it at him. Unfortunately for him, it hit him square in the forehead. By the time the neighbors came outside, his forehead was split open and he was trying to stop the bleeding with his hand. The wound was serious enough that he needed 5 stitches. Hearing about this was honestly disturbing. Kevin ended up filing a police report against my mother. She got slapped with a massive fine, but yeah, he actually got hurt. The police didn't press charges too hard because apparently she hadn't meant to injure him. She just lost control. She also has a great lawyer and is close friends with the district attorney's wife, which definitely played a role. And of course, as soon as she got home, she started blaming me for everything and bombarded me with disgusting messages from her second number, the one I hadn't blocked yet. I tried my best to ignore them, but I still can't help but wonder, was any of this my fault? What Kevin and my mom did to me was absolutely unforgivable. But now, I think maybe I should have just let it go. Just enjoyed what I had instead of trying to get petty revenge. Because yeah, what I did, sending that screenshot, it was out of spite and pain, and I'm not proud of it. If I had known it would all spiral into this, I never would have sent it. I only wanted them to feel bad. It never crossed my mind that someone might actually get hurt. My mom had never attacked anyone before, at least not that I knew of. So I couldn't have predicted this would happen. I truly regret how things turned out, and her constant attempts to play the victim and paint me as the villain just make it worse. Even Kevin is now posting vague quotes about betrayal and heartbreak, which is honestly hilarious. But that's not the point. Right now, it just feels like they're both putting the blame on me. I don't know. I do feel bad that I ruined the relationship between my mother and my soon-to-be ex-husband, but only because she bragged about stealing him from me because of an inheritance she didn't even get. Before we move on to the update, I'd really love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the OP me did the right thing, or should she have stayed out of it? Personally, I think I didn't do anything wrong. Sending a clown emoji and a screenshot? Come on. That dude brought it on himself by texting me in the first place. I didn't hack anything. I didn't manipulate anything. I didn't interfere in their lives beyond that one screenshot. Honestly, all I ever did wrong was not being convenient for my mother and husband. But they weren't trying to be convenient for me, so why should I care? Update 1. Thank you so much for the insane amount of support in the comments. And a special thank you to everyone who mentioned my grandma. She really was one of a kind. I truly believe I'm incredibly lucky to have had her in my life. Having a grandmother like that kind of balances out the fact that I had such a horrible mom. At this point, I don't feel guilty anymore because I didn't really do anything terrible. They ruined my marriage. I ruined their situationship. Eye for an eye. My mom is the one who lost it and assaulted the man she supposedly loved. So no, I'm not going to feel sorry for her. She's the crazy one here, not me. And there's no way I'm going to let her manipulate me into feeling like the villain. Kevin got hurt? Yeah, and I do feel a little bad for that because violence is never okay. But let's not forget, this is the same guy who literally cheated on his wife with her mother. That's disgusting. And I have no idea how anyone could possibly think he has the right to come crawling back to me after that. I'm sorry he got hurt, but it's not my fault. It's not my fault, and it's not my problem. I've blocked both of them everywhere. Honestly, I'm even considering filing a restraining order because my mom is clearly not okay. Who knows what's going on in her head or what she'll do next? If she's angry with me for ruining her love life, she could easily redirect that rage at me. I don't want that. But I also don't want to uproot my entire life just because my mom is a mentally unstable monster. So a restraining order might be the best way to protect myself. I really hope it doesn't come to that. Update 2. Looks like it has come to that. I ignored my mom for almost 2 weeks and was finally starting to move on. Kevin accepted the divorce filing and didn't contest it. Things were slowly getting better. I was in therapy and working hard to let go of all the pain and anger. But of course, my mother couldn't just let things go. Yesterday, I came home after a long workday, and she was standing in my front yard right at my doorstep. I told her to leave, or I'd call the police, even said it from inside my car. But she didn't budge. Instead, she told me I could do whatever I wanted, but she wasn't leaving until we talked about the inheritance. I told her to say what she had to say from a distance, and she said it. She wants half of everything I inherited because, in her words, it's only fair, since Grandma was her mother. I just laughed in her face and told her she was the last person on earth who should be talking about fairness. Then I told her to leave, said she was getting nothing, and I pulled out my phone to call 911 in case she tried anything. She glared at me and walked toward her car, and thank God I had rolled my windows up just in time, because when she passed by, she kicked the passenger side door and left a dent in it. I didn't even realize it right away. I stayed in the car until she drove off far enough, then got out and saw the damage. I took photos immediately, just in case, and luckily my security cameras caught everything, including her face and the moment she kicked it. I've already saved the footage to my laptop and backed it up. After that, I called my lawyer and told him I was definitely moving forward with a restraining order. It's now in progress. I also tried to file a police report, but because of her cozy relationship with the DA's wife, the station chief told me his hands were tied. Whatever. At least I got solid video evidence, and that can't be faked. The next few days are going to be exhausting with all the court stuff, but at least I'm finally on the path to being done with these people. Update 3. Hi everyone. Things have been chaotic lately because of the divorce and all the legal back and forth. We're currently in settlement negotiations, which sucks, but the good news is I finally got the restraining order against my mom last week. So that's done. Thank God. Kevin and his lawyer have been spouting all sorts of nonsense, so now I'm gathering all the proof of his cheating for the next court date. Hopefully, once that's presented, this whole thing will finally be over. It's exhausting, but I've been working with a therapist to manage my anger and not let it take over my life. If I've learned anything from all of this, it's that I never want to turn into someone like my insane mother. Anyway, that's the latest. Thanks for sticking with me through this mess. Let me know what you think in the comments. And don't forget to check out our last video right here. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I wish you all the best.